Perfect. Good morning, Bruno.
Hey Nick, how are you?
I'm good and you.
Good, good.
Good. We're back for another PLA. Two questions we've got today. Bruno, I'm going to start with you. And I'd like you to just touch on the budget speech. So recently we had our annual budget speech, obviously where the minister has set out where exactly all the money's going to be. And there have been some profound effects on our industry. So I'd like you just to go through and touch exactly what our viewers can expect for this upcoming year.
Impacted the property sector in this country. Well, good news, guys. It's actually not bad at all. The budget speech was positive. It foresees growth. And by virtue of this, the budget speech actually does support the property sector, but not necessarily in the ways that you think, right? There hasn't been a reduction in taxes. So unfortunately, you will still have to pay taxes, or the same taxes that you've been paying. The transfer duty table hasn't changed at all. So you're not going to get any reprieve there. It's not like you're paying less VAT now either. You're not paying any less company tax. But where it is good is the fact that, first of all, there is going to be a lot of infrastructure development, and there's a lot of plans that show that the property sector is actually being focused on by the government, especially the housing sector. So if you're in the residential space, that is an affirmation that you're in a good space to be in. Secondly, if it so happens that you're putting properties into your own personal names, at least this year there isn't the same level of bracket creep as there was before. Yes, I do understand that. Unfortunately, over several years, all those lack of adjustments in the tax brackets in your personal name have left a bitter taste in your mouth. And now you get a small little reprieve that accounts for a small percentage of inflation. But you know what? It is better than nothing. So this may very well mean that those bracket creeps are adjusted by inflation. So that's which basically means that you might actually not be paying the same amount of tax in rand value as you would ordinarily. So that is a good thing, guys. Another thing to bear in mind is from a VAT perspective, the threshold is increased. Now, in the property space again, I don't see a lot of people getting excited about this. Why? Well, residential property is VAT exempt anyway. So no one worries about VAT in the residential space. In the commercial space, because properties typically do tend to be quite high value, when you speak about 2.3 million rand, you're not speaking about a lot in properties, in property wise. So frankly, the commercial guys, the guys that have shopping centers or retail stores or any sort of commercial property, they would typically be wanting to be within the VAT net. Why? Because a lot of them have expenses anyway, and they get to claim input tax. So they want to be able to charge tax and claim input tax. It sometimes works for them. And also remember, in the commercial space, your clients typically tend to be clients that are also VAT registered. So when you charge them VAT as a landlord and they pay you, they get to go claim that VAT as input tax. So I don't see people in the commercial space excited. I don't see people wanting now suddenly to deregister. However, the small players may find some benefit to this because now it means that that you have to foresee that you would reach that 2.3 million rand threshold within that tax year. So this does afford you a little bit of time, sometimes as developers or sometimes as even people that own some sort of commercial property, but the smaller end properties. This might assist you. Consider it if you are already VAT registered. Also, remember you can deregister for VAT now, but if you own a property, be very careful with that because if you happen to buy this property and you claimed input tax on the purchase of this property, if you deregister today, it will be considered a deemed disposal, which basically means SARS will look at it as though you've sold it, right? Yes, you get to keep it, but they'll deem it sold and they will expect you to pay the tax that you would have recovered had you sold it. So be very careful when deregistering for VAT. It's not all roses because people often don't realize that over the years they've claimed a number they've had a number of input claims on their assets. And I'm not even just speaking about properties. I mean, if you own a property that inside has certain assets, if there's certain machinery, if you happen to own a warehouse and somehow you manage to find yourself in a position where you're questioning being registered for VAT, just bear in mind that all those assets that you claim input tax for, unfortunately, you're going to need to give money back to SARS. So be careful with the deregistration. But all in all, like we said, we normally look at the budget speech and we walk out feeling horrified that things don't look great. Most of the time it's just increasing liabilities, more and more taxes being piled on. And this one was good. This one was stable. This one didn't increase the taxes. In fact, with most of the changes within this budget speech actually increased certain allowances, things that you're entitled to now became better. I mean, it's not within the property space, but if you look at your RAs, for example, the amount of donations, things like that actually now start playing a part. Capital gains tax. If you happen to sell properties, there's a little exclusion, especially in your personal capacity. Now that exclusion has gone up to 50,000 Rand, your primary residence exclusion has gone up to 3 million Rand. So there's certain upsides. There's definitely upsides if you have properties and you own properties. More in the residential space, admittedly, and more in the smaller investor space. In the commercial space, at least there's stability, and you know that the property market is growing, there's infrastructure development, and at least inflation has not gone up, and there's talks about reduced interest rates. Now, whether that'll happen now, after everything that's happening abroad, is a different conversation altogether. But at least when the speech was out, there was quite a bit of confidence in consumer spending and the reduction of interest rates. So all in all, pretty good.
Right. Thank you for that, Bruno.